What is the true measure of wealth? Emily Grace asked herself as she sat on a worn-out park bench, staring at the people passing by. She had once believed wealth was money, power, and influence, things she had taken for granted. But now, she knew better. She had lost everything, her company, her mansion, and her place among the elite. Now, she was just Emily, another face in the crowd, struggling to make ends meet. It all happened so fast. Grace Industries, the empire she had inherited from her parents, had gone bankrupt. Her misguided attempts to maximize profits by cutting costs and treating employees poorly had backfired. Her once loyal workers had left, customers had abandoned the brand, and competitors had taken over the market. The company's collapse had drained her fortune, leaving her with nothing but a small, run-down apartment and the haunting knowledge that she was to blame. One evening, as Emily sat at a small diner, counting the few dollars she had left, the waitress, a woman about her age, approached her with a kind smile. "Can I get you something?" the waitress asked, holding a notepad in one hand. Emily looked up, embarrassed by her situation. "Just a cup of coffee, please," she replied, her voice barely audible. The waitress nodded and went to fetch the coffee. Emily glanced around the diner. It was a modest place, filled with people who looked tired but content. They weren't rich, but they seemed happy, sharing meals and conversations with one another. It reminded her of the workers at Grace Industries before she had ruined everything. Back then, they had worked hard but smiled often, enjoying the community her parents had built. And she had torn it apart for the sake of her greed. The waitress returned, setting down the cup of coffee. "Rough day?" she asked, her eyes soft with understanding. "You could say that," Emily said with a bitter chuckle. "More like a rough year." The waitress sat down across from her, sensing Emily needed someone to talk to. "I get it. Life's been throwing curveballs at me for a while now. Lost my job last year, had to take this gig just to keep the lights on." Emily's eyes widened. "You lost your job? What did you do before?" "I worked for some big company," the waitress said with a shrug. "Grace Industries. Ever heard of it?" Emily's heart sank. The irony was cruel, and the weight of her guilt pressed down on her chest. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I've heard of it. They went under after the new CEO took over. The workers weren't treated right, and eventually, the whole thing just fell apart," the waitress explained, unaware of Emily's connection to the company. "But, you know, I don't hold grudges. Everyone's just trying to make it in this world. I was lucky to find another job, even if it's not glamorous." Emily stared into her coffee, unable to meet the woman's eyes. "You sound so forgiving," she said, her voice trembling. "Most people would be angry." The waitress smiled. "I was angry at first, but I realized it didn't do me any good. Life's hard enough without carrying all that bitterness. Besides, we're all just human. We make mistakes." Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had made so many mistakes, costing people like this kind woman their jobs, their livelihoods, their peace. And here she was, sitting across from someone who had every reason to hate her, yet showed her nothing but grace. She had lost everything, her money, her status, her power, but in this moment, she realized she had lost something far more valuable, her humanity. I was the CEO," Emily whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The waitress blinked, her face briefly frozen in surprise. "Wait, you're that Emily Grace? The one who ran Grace Industries?" Emily nodded, tears now streaming down her cheeks. "I ruined everything. I didn't care about the people who worked for me. I thought I was smarter, that I could just push everyone harder and make more money. But I was wrong. And now I know what it feels like, to be on the other side. To struggle." For a moment, there was silence between them. Emily braced herself for the anger she was sure would come. But instead, the waitress reached out and gently placed her hand on Emily's. "You're not the only one who's made mistakes," she said softly. "We all fall down sometimes. The important thing is what you do after." Emily shook her head. But it's too late. The company's gone, and I've lost everything. It's never too late to start again, the waitress replied. You can still make things right, not with the company, but with the people you hurt. You may not be able to fix everything, but you can still do some good. Emily wiped her eyes, feeling a strange sense of hope. It was true, she couldn't bring back Grace Industries or undo the damage she had caused, but she could try to make amends. She could be the kind of person her parents had raised her to be, the kind of leader who cared for others, not just herself. I don't know how to start, Emily admitted. I've made such a mess of things. Start small, the waitress said with a smile. Help the people around you. You'll figure it out as you go. Over the next few months, Emily worked odd jobs to support herself, but her focus wasn't on earning money anymore. She volunteered at shelters, helped the unemployed find work, and donated what little she could to those in need. Slowly, word spread about the former CEO of Grace Industries, now dedicating her time to helping those she had once neglected. One day, while walking through the park, Emily ran into the waitress from the diner. They smiled at each other, and the waitress asked, "How's it going?" "I'm learning," Emily said with a smile. "Life's not about the race, is it?" The waitress grinned. "Nope. It's about who you run with." As Emily walked away, she felt lighter than she had in years. She may not have her fortune or her company, but she had regained something far more important, her heart. And that, she realized, was the true measure of wealth.